Fabenstein says, have you ever had a near miss that made you leery of using that particular equipment after the incident? I was a professional welder and had a 480 volt plug arc and explode in my face. And after that, I was leery of plugging in the equipment for quite some time. Yeah. We have time for me to tell this story. The first thing is, I think a lot of people's shop experience of a near miss with a tool is getting a kickback from a table saw. I have had one. I have had more than one in my life. I've fed thousands of things into a table saw, and so yeah, I've had my share of kickbacks, and they're awful. Even the kickback that doesn't injure you at all is awful. And I have taught shop class, and when I taught a shop class, I had a student have a kickback. They were too tentative and they got nervous and it kicked back and it hit them in the stomach. They weren't super injured. It wasn't a bad hit. And we sat down, we talked about it, and then we got up and they fed another piece of wood into the machine. That's really important. It's really important. One can become so afraid of a machine that they use it poorly. And in that case, you're in more danger. So the table saw, among the most terrifying tools in any shop, is worthy of respect and terror. But it's also worthy of using enough so that you are not so scared of it you can't use it properly. The near miss that shifted my opinion of a machine on axis was on my lathe, and it happened just after COVID lockdown. I have told this story on the channel before, but it's been a long time. So the lockdown happened mid-March. Within a week, all the San Francisco hospitals are absolutely full of COVID patients, and they're telling you, please don't come in. I come into this cave and I'm starting to film things alone. We're just starting to figure out what the shape of this might be. And I realized, oh, I've got a lot of time. Maybe I should fix this one problem I've had in my lathe. And the problem I was having is my lathe is a tool room lathe, which means it has almost all the settings you could ever want without having to change any gears. It means there's lots of dials and levers on my machine. And to do specific operations requires specific formulae that you apply by putting a bunch of levers and knobs to various settings. And one of my levers would not go to all of its settings. It would only go to most of its settings. And it didn't really affect me. It was only like the lowest speed I couldn't use, but it was the lowest speed I couldn't use. And I didn't like that my beautiful big fat lathe was missing this one operation. So with the extra time afforded by lockdown, I realized, okay, let me take this thing apart. And I'd like to point out, I know that I seem handy and that I am semi-famous. I'm famous for being handy, absolutely. I want to tell you that opening up a lathe and trying to figure out what's wrong with it is a mystifying experience for me. It was. And so I cracked open the top. It's filled with oil. So I siphoned out the oil, gallons and gallons and gallons of it. Now I'm taking my flashlight inside, I'm looking and I'm moving the lever. And after about half an hour of looking, I find the problem. And it's a bearing that's slipping out of its gear. And two of them, the bearing slipping and the gear, create a thing that's so wide, the selector can't get to that part in order to select that gear. So I need to compress these things. And I go to my welding table and I build a tool specifically for getting these two things together, and I get them together. It felt amazing. I want to point out that the very first thing I did when I looked down into this meat grinder of gears was walk over and unplug the machine and follow the plug to the machine to make sure I was unplugging the machine I was working on. I understood it was absolutely mission critical that there be no chance this thing could ever turn on, because it was lit. I want to say it was like the garbage disposal from what's the movie where everyone dies? Final Destination. There's a Final Destination in which someone reaches into a garbage disposal, and in the original cut of the movie, they built this spectacular sort of knife show of gears and cutting blades inside the sink, and they got sued by Incinerator because garbage disposals don't look like that. And so now when you see the cut of Final Destination, you don't see that, and I miss that. But what were we talking about? Oh, right. So we're talking about me fixing my lathe. I then poured all the oil back in, or fresh oil back in, got everything topped up, plugged the machine in, turned it on, boop, boop, boop. I have all the selection. Now I feel really awesome about the machine. Like, I feel great affection for it. And so I start to clean it, because that's what you do when you're happy with the tool. You start to polish it up, and I'm grabbing some things and like tuning it up and sweeping it and cleaning it out. And rag gets caught between two of the rollers on my cross feed and pulls my hand in between these two rollers. It happens so fast. And I pull my hand, and there's this literal moment when I don't know what I'm gonna see when I bring my hand back in front of me. And what I see, I didn't even know if there'd be a finger. Luckily there was. Spoilers. And I had torn my left middle finger from here to here, looking inside it at the tendons and the viscera. It was the worst thing I have ever done to my body. Yeah, there you go. Full stop. And it's COVID. So I'm not going to the hospital. I'm absolutely clear I'm not going to the hospital. I have, when I cut myself, my hands specifically, I have a frequent fainting reaction. And I was aware of that. So I actually, right after it happens, I went into my bathroom. I irrigated it. I've got a saline irrigator. I put some mercurochrome on it, iodine. And then I grabbed a roll of toilet paper, right? Just against the wound, and held it above my heart. And I called my mom. My mom, we had just brought my mom out from COVID. And she was staying with us, and she came over because I just wanted someone else in case I fainted. And then I dressed it with her help and support. I irrigated, I dressed it, I butterflied it, and I changed that dressing once or twice a day for the next several months, and it came out fine. There were no stitches involved. I have full motion. I have no loss of feeling anywhere. But I came in the next day, and I had this giant bandage on my hand, and I knew that everyone on camera, I'd be having this hand on camera, everyone's going to say, "What's the bandage?" That would be the only comment. And then I noticed I had this resistance to talking about what I had done. And I recognized further that my resistance was shame, that I was ashamed of myself for hurting myself in the shop. And that is the most common emotion I have when I injure myself. You idiot. And so I talked about that. And that, talking about that shame, talking about that to me is the turn for me, that where Tested went from being what it was to what it is. It got a lot more personal at that moment. And I'm really grateful for that, because I didn't see it coming. I didn't understand that it was happening in the moment. At the same time, it really was transformational. And honestly, I am now clear that the lathe is the most dangerous tool in this building. It's the most dangerous tool within several buildings. And we live near a police station. Yeah, a lathe is terrible. And I know that there are lathe accidents. I don't want to go look at any of them. I never will. Thank you very much. A healthy respect for the dangers of the tools is absolutely vital, but it is important that it doesn't equate to fear. And if it does, you need to practice that fear back out so that you can operate competently. Want to ask me a question during a live stream? Become a Tested member by clicking the join link right around there somewhere.